Very cool.
Right on. How's it going, Kieran? Welcome to Iblis Manifestations, man. I feel
Good,
like
man.
this one has been long overdue, don't you think?
Yeah, I'm surprised it's taken this long. How long ago did you start doing these? Like a couple years ago?
Yeah, so I think the first episode came out maybe the first week of March 2022, I believe.
That's not a maybe. I know what you like with dates. It was definitely the first week of March in 2022, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it
But
was.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't fuck around with dates.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, yeah. It's a good time though. Good timing. But yeah, it's like I'm glad to be on.
Well, it's my pleasure to have you on, man. It's exciting times for Andracca. I feel like we've kind of watched the band, or at least I have, both myself and the other guys in TRIVAX at the very least, kind of watched it go from the sort of the very early stages of, I guess the first time we shared the stage together, the show that you put on in Lancaster, the very memorable show that we can talk about in
Yeah,
February 2020, 8th of February, if I'm not mistaken, and yeah, and seeing how far the band has come from that, where it was basically almost just like a solo performance, where it was almost like just
yeah,
a
yeah.
raw idea of what it's supposed to be, and then to see it flourish the way it is now is cool to see, man. So congratulations, and how are
Thanks
you
very much.
feeling?
Yeah, I'm fucking so it's like especially like coming off the back of last year, which was like by far like the strongest year that we had. Like we had a like the new drummer come in at the tail end of the year before last, but like all of last year was like we'd done a tour together and it was finally like a cohesive full lineup. Like we finally got like both guitars. Like that show that you first mentioned. I mean, it was an entirely different lineup. It was still only like one guitar. So like we were missing, half of the half the guitar parts. So now it's like we're not having to compromise on anything in a live setting, and the band's just gotten really tight. Shows have been getting better. Like we've been able to start performing some of the new music as well, which has definitely elevated the live set like massively. Um,
Mm.
yeah, like coming off the back of a great year like that, and then being able to release the album as of recording tomorrow. It's like the momentum has just been really, really satisfying watching it build up especially like the last like 6 months of last year, like doing like the Bolzer shows, the Fortress Fest shows, Incineration, like the like all of my favorite shows that we've done so far were all last year, and like there's even better shows already lined up for this year. So it's yeah, exciting times.
It's a very interesting path because I think it's one that we've all kind of tread at some point, and it's one that, if you look at it from the outside, it just looks so fucking futile and almost pointless. But when you go through it, that every little thread that comes through, every small gig
Yeah,
opportunity, even if it's like a I don't know, like a small show, like everything is kind of like connected. It almost feels like you're getting one step closer to that point that you want to get to, and obviously a lot of music is also well, being a musician, it's not what you think it is, but when you get into it, you realize a lot of it is just about making the right connections, which obviously you guys have been doing. You signed with Vendetta, great label, and you've also signed with Gary from Reaper,
yeah, yeah,
and he obviously knows exactly what he's doing as well, and it's good seeing the band kind of come together in that way, in more of a professional context. So, I mean, tell us a little bit just from like the earlier days of it, because the first time I saw you, you didn't even have a drummer, and then and that was just like what was it? I think it was just you and your old bass player Matt,
me and
if
my
I
original
remember.
bassist. Yeah, yeah.
That's it.
So in January of 2018, I put my first live lineup together. Initially, there was actually a different vocalist too because I wasn't able to play guitar and do vocals at the same time. Um,
Hmm.
that lasted for like a show or two, and then I thought like I want to take over this to
Sorry
like
to
deliver
actually
it.
interrupt there, but just out of curiosity, I don't know if you've done the maths, but how many people have actually come in and out of the band in the last 5, 6 years?
So the original drummer left after he had like a few kids. The vocalist left, like the original vocalist. He wasn't on any recorded material. It was just like a live thing for the first couple shows.
Right.
And then I decided to take over that. And then the original bass player left. We had another drummer come in for a little while. The one that we did your 10-year anniversary show with. I think we only did maybe 2 or 3 shows with him, and then that didn't work out. So four people have left over the course of 5 years. But yeah, like, half of them were just due to changing life circumstances, and then other people just left of their own accord because they had different musical tastes. Like the drummer that was with us for a little while was fond of using triggers on his kick drum, and couldn't deal with it.
No fucking triggers in black metal, man, unless you're, I don't know, 1349. It's just not permittable at all.
He was a slam drummer too, so it wasn't even just like the clicky triggers. It's like, can't do. He wasn't a bad drummer or a bad guy, but yeah, just different tastes, one different things. So yeah, we've had 4 people sort of leave, and then since 2021, no one has left. So it's not. I think that's right. 2021 or 2022. So we've had the same 4 guys for about 18 months now. So I think it's the most stable the lineup has been for a while, but it finally feels like it's the first time it's felt like really fully cohesive, like musically and like personality wise, like everyone gets on really well. Which is really satisfying. Like, you're not worrying about like managing people. You can just get on and do the work with everyone. I think that's massively helped, like, the previous year, pick up the momentum as much as it did. So yeah, from progressing from those sort of first few shows, it was just a matter of I wanted to just keep raising the bar all the time. Like, since the start, I've recorded like pretty much every gig that we've ever done to like watch back after and like assess like how I'm performing as a frontman, as a guitarist, and then seeing what the rest of the band are doing as well. Because a lot, like, you're not playing a show and looking at your bandmates and seeing like how they're doing a whole set. So
no, you just hear the fuck ups and then try and remember, so you kill them afterwards. That's it.
But
it's like James Hetfield whenever like Lars would fuck up. Like, I think one time he just went and punched him in the stomach afterwards.
I'm not surprised.
That's the way to do it, man.
But yeah, like, we don't have any of those problems now, which is nice.
Sure.
Like, everyone, does their work and like shows up to like gigs like ready. It's nice not having like the worry at the back of your mind, like, is this part of the song gonna get fucked up again or whatever. And because you're all able to play a lot more confidently when you're confident in everyone else's ability, and I've felt a lot more sort of comfortable on stage in the last like 18 months or so. I mean, like, I didn't have, I wouldn't say like I had like issues with it at the start, but it definitely didn't like come naturally to start playing gigs. Like, I started quite late. I think the first gig I did was 3 days after I turned 21, because it, like you mentioned, it started as a solo project. Like, in North Wales, there was just no one interested in playing this sort of music. So it was a case of I need to like learn how to write music by myself, record it by myself, write lyrics and do vocals, start putting artwork together. So there was a massive learning curve even before I could start, putting plans to gig together. And obviously we had COVID like a year and a half or so after that first gig. So there wasn't that much like live experience until the last like 2 years. But we've been doing a lot in the last 2 years. And it's like my favorite thing in the world to do. Like, I start going a bit crazy if it's been like a month or so without a show.
Right. Yeah.
It's been 2 months at the moment, and I've got to wait another month until the album release show. But the preparations for the release are keeping me busy. I don't feel like I'm losing it. First rehearsal of the year this Saturday, which I'm looking forward to. So yeah, like, just staying busy and feeling a lot more comfortable and confident on stage. Just as the band has gotten better and better, you just lean into it more and more and more.
Thing is, what you're talking about with, with if it's been over a month and you've not played live, I don't know if most people actually understand what that feels like, but it's a terrible fucking feeling, because it's like, for a lot of us, well, I guess there's not even many of us to begin with, especially, those who play black metal. I don't know how other artists in other genres feel, but one thing that I've always felt is that if a long time goes by and if you've not been on stage, there's this itch of, can we just fucking play? Yeah, yeah. And there's this itch to want to play, but then not just for the sake of playing, but it's almost like you need that just to feel normal. You need that to exercise the day-to-day emotions and experiences and things that you get, because I feel like that's really what the stage is. It's almost like, as an artist, you're like a musical emotional sponge where you go through life and then you absorb everything, and then most people let that go, but for artists you somehow hold on to it, and then when it comes stage time, that's when you let loose of all of those things. I don't know how much that's something you relate to.
When you said like most people let it go, I was like, and that's fucking not me. Yeah, it's like it's like I refuse to let things go. But yeah, it's like the like
Yeah,
I
you were still
physically
mad that I
sense
kicked
the
you off stage at our anniversary
yeah, yeah.
show.
Fucking get
Even
you
though I
that one
invited you
day, man.
back on
Yeah,
afterwards.
that was so funny.
Yeah.
Um, you know, but yeah, it's like I don't know if you get this as well, but like like when it won't happen for like the duration of an entire set, but like there'll be particular moments, like you hit like a particular part of like one of your favorite points in the set. Like I physically feel catharsis and like you
Mm.
like weight being lifted. It feels like I'm being like lifted off the stage a bit. Um, and man, like yeah, the the heavy breathing after you finish the set and the oh man, it's like I don't think there's anything in the world that can compare to it. Like
Mm.
the intensity of it is like it's both like it's really physically draining, especially like when you're doing like what we do, where it's you're doing the vocals as well as playing. It's difficult to like keep your breath like really steady all the way through because you're expelling that much air. Like I'll get like lightheaded quite often after like doing really long, drawn out screams or
This is
whatever.
true. Absolutely, yeah.
Obviously the playing is very physical as well. So it's like it's so physically draining as well, and the like the emotive elements of it as well are like really emotionally draining. But like the high afterwards is insane, and it's like yeah, it's like, I don't think there's anything that can compare to it. So it's like when you go back to work after a weekend of doing that, and it's like grey.
Mm. Oh my God, yes.
Mics or smoke machines or screaming feedback. Like and
Yeah.
this is even without like the interactions you have with the crowd on and off stage, like all the positive interactions you have with people, like friends and other bands. Like there's a lot of positivity, just like socially as well.
It
Um,
feels like every handshake just sends electricity through your body, It's like this wave
great.
of
It's,
good feeling.
like, I remember like we played a show in Barrow in summertime last year, and there was like a sort of younger guy that never heard of us before, but like he came up and was like, "Oh, that song at the end of the set like really emotionally moved me," and he was like shaken by it. So I'm glad that it translates, like even when people don't know like what the songs are about or anything. Um, the fact that it like people can pick up on it is a crazy thing, and it's like it was like so fortunate to be able to do it. It's like you said before,
Mm.
like it seems like a futile thing. It's like, oh, I drove 4 hours each way for a half-hour set, and each band member gets £10, and we spent it on a kebab afterwards or whatever. Like, but like it's the best thing in the world. Like
It
it just
is. Yeah, no, it is the best thing in the world, and it's a beautiful thing because you know that you earned it, and you
oh yeah,
didn't earn it by doing something you hated to do. You earned it by doing something you love doing the most. I mean, just even the idea of going on stage, if we want to kind of put the sensation itself into perspective, I've always had a hard time putting it into words, but it's obviously something that I think about a lot, and it is a subject that comes up quite frequently on the podcast as well. So for me, my recent thought on it is that you can compare being on stage and at least performing our style of music to three things. And obviously, you have to consider that not all bands of this genre actually take it as seriously and go as far out with it. A lot of them it's just show, which is, what, that's fine, to each their own. But if you really take it seriously, especially from a spiritual perspective, and really go for it, there are three things that you can relate it to, and it's somehow in between all of those. One is fighting. So getting the adrenaline boosted up completely, reptilian brain take over, and you're trying to kill someone with your bare hands. And hopefully you don't actually hurt anyone or yourself, but these things happen. So number one is fighting. Number two is having sex, because it's kind of like it's this ecstatic moment that you're completely caught up in the moment. Yeah. And it's the best feeling in the world. It's like, oh, please don't end. This is amazing, and obviously, it's very enjoyable. But then three is dreaming, because it feels like there's a lot going on, and at the same time, you're not even there. So to me, playing a live show is like a weird combination of all those three things, the agony and ecstasy, and that's kind of where it sits for me mentally.
That album title from What's Tame was a stroke of genius. It's a great way of putting it. Agony and ecstasy.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's a very old saying, and I think it makes perfect sense.
It's like with the other two, it's like you tend to be like very present for both of those things. Whereas with dreaming, it's all quite surreal. But I know what you mean. Like it is a blend of the two, because I tend to walk away from gigs with more like snapshots of actual memories rather than like remembering like particular like whole sequences. It's just like I'll get like sort of flashing images and snapshots and then more of like an atmosphere and a feeling rather than remembering anything specific.
Even though you're probably the most present and the most focused you'll ever be out of anything.
I mean, it's like I don't like drink or anything before I play shows anymore. Like I used to have maybe like a pint or two before going on to like settle the nerves or something, but now I prefer to just play gigs completely sober. But by the end of it, like you're completely intoxicated. Like the spatial awareness, especially when you use like a lot of smoke and stuff, like your spatial awareness is just gone. You're trying to put together like sentences. I'm not even really thinking about like lyrical lines. It's just like a muscle memory thing. And then
it's the same for me as well.
With people afterwards, it's like, fuck. I don't know how to have like cordial conversation with people afterwards, and you've got to give it like 5 minutes to like come back into yourself in a more socially acceptable way. Yeah, it's like you're accessing a very different part of how you express yourself. When you're doing that.
I remember years ago we did this show at the O2 Academy in Birmingham. This was November 2012, and might have been 8th of November again, but I remember after that show, that was the first time that we actually experimented with different lights, and I was going through a lot in my life at that point as well, so my head was already in a really fucked up place, and I'd only been away from Iran for just over a year at that point. And I remember after that show, I just was in a complete trance to the point where I had conversations with people that I don't remember. But one thing I do remember is I was at the back of a bus, and I remember just before we got off, some girl or some woman came up to me. I don't remember what they looked like, but they said something. They said a full sentence to me. They came up to me, said something, and then walked off. And all I heard was like, it was just like the weirdest fucking thing. And I only remembered it the next day. And all I remembered was just muffled noise of what that person said to me. And it was a really fucking weird state to be in.
I've had similar stuff, like, like when you're just like loading off the stage, and like, especially if it's like a quick changeover thing and you're having to sort of be aware of time again. And there's people trying to talk to you while you're carrying your stuff off the stage. It's just like blinders on. Like I can't deal with other human beings for at least 5-10 minutes. It's a really strange thing. Sometimes it lasts. Like if the show's particularly good, it's a weird state that you stay in for like hours. Like when we did the Glasgow show in August, that we got the footage for the video for the single for. That gig was so hot and sweaty and disgusting and amazing. it's probably my favorite gig that we've done so far. But like we drove back to Lancaster from Glasgow the same night. And like I hadn't had a single drink, and I was driving most of the way back, and it got to like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, man, we played like nearly 5 hours ago, and I am still wired. Like it was, it's like yeah, like some shows like really fucking keep you elevated for a really long time, and even when you think back, it still like sends like the hairs on your arms like standing up.
Yeah, it's a funny one, you know. I wonder if you'll relate to this. One thing that I've noticed is that the last show that you play will dictate your entire mood until the next gig that you play. So
yeah,
that's a fucking weird one. I don't know how it is, but I remember we one of the first sort of stringed shows that we did. I think this was in back in 2018. The first show was amazing. Second show was really good, and then the last show was awful. I mean, it was like our performance alone was, I would say, was really decent, especially by the standards of 2018 TRIVAX. But there was like 5 people in the room. What was great about it was that those 5 people were going crazy, and they were going on top of each other, still doing mosh pits, you know. So that was a cool thing, you know, like I still vibed from it, but there was just this awful lingering feeling that was with me for the next month until we played another show again. And I've noticed, like, for example, our last one was the album launch show. I'm still feeling good about gigs right now. But I bet you if we did like another series of shows now, but then if the last one, for whatever reason, we've played lesser and lesser shitty gigs, obviously, in the recent years. But if there was one like that, you know, it would kind of stick with you somehow. I don't know how it is. I don't know how and why it works that way.
I think part of it is like, I think particularly like black metal wise, and maybe particularly with me and you individually, we're both very focused on the fact that the next show isn't a guaranteed thing. You know, it's like if you think like, well, you know, my time isn't guaranteed, and if that was the last show, then that would really fuck me off. Like that definitely plays into it for me. Like I remember we drove back from, I think it was one of Gary's Reaper events in York at the start. Yeah, it was the one that you played with Deitus in January of last year. I think we were driving back from that.
I think that was my second show with them. Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah,
we were driving back from that, and we passed like a fucking horrendous, like near fatal car crash about 2 minutes after it happened. It's a pretty on the nose reminder. But yeah, it's like trying to stay aware that, you know, you're not guaranteed to get to your next gig. Like, you know, especially like, you know, when we're doing long drives and people can be tired or whatever. You know, I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often, to be honest.
I think that's an interesting way to look at it. I mean, maybe there is an element of that.
It's not just that.
Yeah, no, I think it's obviously a multitude of things. Yeah, obviously for us, you know, we come from a background of you're not even supposed to play live shows. If you play them, your life's in danger. And then we did fucking 3 of them in the Islamic Republic, you know. But for me, yeah, that mindset is always, obviously, as you pointed, has always been there, that every show could be the last one. But I think that it's also this almost aspect of competing against yourself. You know, it's the similar thing as a fighter. You know, earlier I said one of the things it relates to is like fighting. You look at, let's say, MMA fighters or boxers. Someone might have had an amazing career, but if their last fight they got knocked out, then that's kind of what they get defined by. And I feel like maybe other people don't look at a band necessarily the same way, especially because of how many times we actually play shows. You know, definitely it's not the same number of times someone might be fighting. But every time I feel like we play a show, I think perhaps we observe ourselves that way. You know, there's like, I've got something to prove. So if you, for whatever reason, end up with a shit gig, it's like, I need to go back and fix this. You know, I can't leave it like that.
Yeah, it's especially tricky because obviously, like, you know, if you're fighting, like, you know, there's not really that many other variables besides your own performance on like how the fight goes. Whereas in a live setting, you could just have you know, a sound man who has no idea what you're doing and you can't hear anything whatsoever. You could just have like a terrible bill and you're just not playing to the right audience or with the right other bands. Like there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong that can make a show go bad even if you don't perform well. But you know, even in those circumstances, you can still perform well and feel like personally okay with it. I think, like we had one or two of those last year where it's like, you know, the overall experience of the show could have been better, but like, you know, at least, you know, reliably sort of look back on the way that we all performed and like, well, you know, we did the best with what we had, which helps, but you know, it's still not anywhere near as satisfying as, you know, everything like working together. And you know, when you get a great show where everyone performs great, the sound's great, the audience is great, it's just fucking electric. It's so good.
It's one of them things. It's an alchemical process where all the stars have to align for everything to be right for it.
Yeah, for sure. And it doesn't even matter if it's like a big show or a small show. Like one of the other bands I play with, Insurgency, like the black thrash band, we played a show with Devastator, and I think it was the Chameleon in Nottingham in summer. And that was sort of a pretty small place, but it's the sweatiest gig I've ever played in my life.
It gets pretty hot up there, yeah.
The crowd were like crawling up the walls, and the walls were sweating, and the sound was good, and it was fucking great. Like I love small venues when the crowd is like right up in your face. Shows like that are really great. But yeah, just to like branch off from that, like the you know, obviously like I did the little stint with the TRIVAX stuff. I'm starting the Deitus stuff. I've played bass with Bolnir and I do the Insurgency stuff. Like I've played around in a few different bands the last few years. And the difference in experience and energy when you're playing with all those different bands is like the main reason that I'm doing it. So like I mentioned before, like I started doing gigs fairly late, and obviously I only had experience in like my own thing where I'm, you know, pretty much like deciding what we're going to do all the time and like working out how to do everything. So being able to step into like different roles in different bands and like just pick up like the different ways of interpreting and performing something like black metal. Like it's quite funny. Like people say that black metal all sounds the same, but like the difference in experience between all the different bands that I've played with, like is obviously like the core experience of playing a show is still sort of relatively similar, but like the emotional experience of like going through different sets is entirely different thing. And it's made my own band more well-rounded, I think, because I've got a lot more perspective on all the different ways that you can communicate like the same idea, but in lots of different ways, of different formats. You know, down to like, you know, the way that you move on stage, the way that you dial in guitar sounds on stage, how you set up lighting, how you want to set up like any backdrop. So like it's all an entirely different thing.
Definitely noticed a few changes since you joined TRIVAX.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like last year that like there's so many gigs. Like I played a lot of shows last year. But yeah, like the yeah, it's like I think that helped too, because like obviously I've got to do the vocals at the same time as the guitars with the Andracca stuff. So I didn't have that much experience playing guitar and like being able to move around a stage and get like, you know, not getting fucking tangled in cables or whatever it is, like making sure that you're not like crossing paths with people at like the wrong time, tripping over stuff. And now like when I've got little pauses in vocal passages in my own band, it's easier to like move around and like being a vocalist for a bit, just do the guitar thing for 10 seconds. So like when you perform, you don't think 10 seconds is a long time, but it really is. Like you can do a lot in 10 seconds.
Oh, it is. Yeah. You could really fuck with the crowd in that time. Yeah. But the thing is as well, like, you know, playing other people's music, it can be actually a very liberating thing in the sense that, oh, it's freeing. It's not my own chords that I've kind of like gone and overthought about, you know, like that was the thing, you know, for me that, you know, kind of attracted me to want to play with other bands. Obviously, I've also played with a handful, but then at the end of the day, it just feels like it's low risk, low reward, and then it gets tiring, you know.
Yeah, it's like, I think we had a conversation after Cosmic Void. It's like, because that up until now, I think is like the biggest show on paper that I've done. But it's like I've like personally been like more fulfilled by like a show that'll be like half the size that Andracca has done when it's been particularly a good day. Obviously, like I said at the time, it's still like a really cool experience and really enjoyable. But it's like there's that like last 10% of the itch that doesn't get scratched. But like it's still enjoyable, like you said. Like it's a bit more freeing, and it's like really fresh to play music that you've not written. So yeah, again, it's just like a wildly different experience. Like
the healthy way that listen, this is something that I struggled with a lot before, and people in other bands who I played with, and I probably had some, I would say maybe unnecessary clashes with them, and it was all down to my own perception. And it's because sometimes when you're in a band with people, you're just a part of the band and then you're playing, but then in your head, because you're so focused on what you're doing, this is both a blessing and a curse, because it can also sort of cut you off from better, bigger opportunities when it's like that. But then also at the same time, it means that you're going to be committed to what you're doing. But the issue sometimes becomes that, and I'm talking about myself here. Let's say in the example of when I used to be in Master Skull, for example, or even Arsemes when I used to play in those bands before. And Arsemes are a very well-known band. Arguably probably the most well-known band from the Middle East. But the problem becomes that you start comparing that other band to what you're doing, and then there comes this sense of frustration because you now have access. Let's say the band that you're playing with are bigger than your own project. It creates this weird sense of frustration, but also competition, that it's like, well, I've got access to this through them. Why don't I have access to that through my own project? And there's this thing of, well, they've earned it. They've earned it, whatever it is. They've been around for a long time to earn that. And that's why you always got to remind yourself not to look at your own projects as competition to one another. Which for me, by the way, is a difficult thing to do. But it's something that I've kind of gotten better with more recently. Where I'm like, oh, you know what? Weird Staff are actually a great project. It's got nothing to do with TRIVAX. I should really make something of this, which we have been working behind the scenes. And but then until I had to pull my finger out and then stop self-sabotaging, that would have never happened. So it's this kind of thing of, you don't want to get in your own way. Having your priorities right is a fantastic thing. But also you don't want to get in your own way by being too dead set on something, because you never know what's going to happen with something in life.
I mean, like you were saying before, like a lot of like opportunities arise from like the connections that you make with people, and the like I was saying, like the reason that I'm played in quite a few bands in like the last sort of year or so is like partly like the live experience that I mentioned, but also like the opportunity to like meet and talk with people. Like I was able to go and play the first overseas show and like talk to people there, like make connections with people there.
Wait, are you talking about Germany?
Yes, yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah, that was a really fun time. And yeah, it's just like be in the room. It's like just being in the room. But then like another sort of part of it is like I didn't really see it as like a competition thing, in the sense that I was viewing all the experience I was gaining was going to benefit my own band, if that makes sense. Like obviously you end up getting to a point of like time forces you to prioritize things, which is unfortunate. In an ideal world, I could stay at home, just only do rock and roll all the time. But the world is.
I know that too fucking well.
But yeah,
yeah.
I was able to drop a day a week at work, and that's been amazing. Like otherwise, I definitely wouldn't have been able to do the TRIVAX stuff for like the short time that I did. It's like having the extra day a week to do that on top of like all the other stuff. But yeah, like in an ideal world with unlimited time, any time on stage where I'm honing what I do on stage with my own band is eventually going to help elevate my own band. But yeah,
absolutely.
The competition thing is a difficult one because every band is always really different. They know different people. Like I remember a few years ago, I definitely had it was more like a regional thing. It's like, oh man, why are these bands getting gigs in London and we've not played in London when we've been going for a couple of years. Is they're based in fucking
Oh,
London, man. It's like that's why they're getting the gig.
listen.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
it's like
can't go down that path.
it's like
Yeah.
every band in the world is going to have like more connections in one geographical region, you know. But
Listen, it's one of them things. I mean, first of all, as much as I understand how it can happen, you can't make comparisons like that. You know what they say? Comparison is the
totally
thief
different.
of joy. You
So,
know,
yeah,
because you could be getting amazing opportunities, but because you're so caught up in looking at what everyone else is doing, you completely forget what you're doing, and you almost throw away the value of it. You know, and the thing is, if you're an artist, there's hardly any monetary reward, especially not in the early beginnings, you know, and then perhaps maybe you can turn it into a business that at least self-sustains, and that's
yeah,
kind of a
yeah.
definition of success in a big sense, if you ask me, especially in the music industry. But then at the same time, you want to enjoy the moment, you know, like if you see one of your mates going off to, I don't know, tour all over America, it's like, good
It's
for
exciting.
them.
Good for you, man.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
What a
especially when
cool
it's
thing to see.
like bands that you've shared stages with, like as you both sort of coming up.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Yeah.
always because it's like you get to see like especially like when you do it yourself, like you know the amount of work that goes into it. Like, you know, even if a band does like buy onto a tour or something, they're going to have to at least get to a point where they're going to be like in consideration, and they'll still have to like work to get the money to buy onto a tour. Like, you know, it's still not like a free opportunity, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
I've
like
definitely.
there's
It's
no
funny that.
shortcuts really.
Yeah, no, there isn't. It's funny you bring that one up, because that's one I've changed my mind on recently. You know, like before, say 7, 8 years ago, if I saw that, I'd be very judgmental. But now I'm like, no, actually, it makes sense. It makes sense for the band that are offering it, and then it makes sense for the band that are taking it. You know, it's kind of like,
I think it's one of them. If you time it really right in your career as a band, if you do one of those, then that can set you up.
sure. You got to
Yeah.
do it with the right lineup, and then you got to, you know, and then there's
Oh
the
yeah.
thing of getting time off from work, and then some people have got kids, you know,
And
and
at the end of the day,
yeah.
even if you get on, like, if you bought your way onto like a main support slot for Mayhem, if your band is shit, the reception is still going to be shit, and no one will buy your stuff. Like, it'll only
I don't
help your
know
career
about
take
that.
off. Like,
I don't know about that. I've seen some pretty shitty fucking bands.
some people have awful taste. We know this.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I
but
don't want to name names, but there's just like, you know, because that doesn't help anyone, doesn't help me, doesn't, you know, help the listeners, you know. But there are way too many bands that every time everyone's like raving about them, I'm like, cool, I'll check this out, and I'll check it out. I'm like, what the hell is this? This is fucking awful, you know. But then it's kind of like, you know, at the end of the day, this is like something I used to struggle with a lot when I was younger. But I'm kind of over it now. You know, it's like I'm not the band police. You know, I only focus on what we are doing, and as long as I've got a sense of pride about that, and as long as I know we're giving it our best, or at least making sure that that's happening, then I'm all good. You know, the rest of the world, let them do what they want to do. If some bands get more opportunities, or they get less you know, if another band gets more opportunities, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to be frustrated. And if a band gets less opportunities, that's not going to be like,
yeah,
haha, screw
it's
you,
not a
you know.
zero
It's
sum
like
game, you know.
it's yeah, it's at the end of the day, the more self value and the self worth that you have, and the more healthy boundaries that you've got, you'll just focus on what you're doing, and the more you focus on that, the more you will actually grow and progress anyway.
Sure. I mean, it's like I don't have time to be fucking thinking about the intricacies of other bands. It's like I'm too busy doing like my own
Yeah.
stuff. But like I think as long as you're making the music that you should be making as an artist, it's like you should be satisfied with doing that in, you know, whatever opportunities you get. You know, as long as you're not compromising any aspect of your band or your music or your image, it's like any opportunity is always like a little, like, it's a sincere win. Whereas, like, you know, if you were trying to, like, if you were seeing other bands doing well and it's like, oh, they did this little gimmick and it paid off for them, I'm going to do that or something like that, then, like, you know, you could fucking book me on Whacking or whatever. And if I'm doing like a gimmicky thing I don't actually believe in, it's like I can hate it. Um,
Mm.
which
That's
again
really
is
funny
like
you make the walk-in example. It's really interesting you make that example because when I left Artemis just under 10 years ago, I said to Ali, I said, listen, man, I love the opportunity and everything I've done with you guys for the last year, but even if you got booked to headline walk-in, because Artemis at that time, you got to think, they had a lot of promise. Their following was huge, and they still have a big following now, but they're just dormant. They've not done anything for years. But I said to him, I said, even if you got offered to headline walk-in, I still wouldn't be satisfied playing on stage with you because my passion is in TRIVAX. And he did not take it well, I must say. But it's the truth of it. But just as like a bit of a, just coming out of the topic a little bit as well and focusing a little bit on what your new album's doing. That's coming out tomorrow, right?
Literally tomorrow, yeah. It's
okay.
Midnight tonight on all the streaming services. What, like 3 hours, 14 minutes? I have that right. Yeah.
I'm guessing you're not going to be asleep at midnight.
No, I think I'm going to be up for a while tonight. It's like, man, I started writing it over 5 years ago, and most of it has been sort of done musically 3 years ago. And all the final recordings, mixing, mastering, everything was done in like November of 2022. The previous 2 releases we did, it was like the audio is ready, like it's releasing in 2 weeks' time. Whereas this, like, first release on like a bigger label, on Vendetta, like promo time. It was the first time we actually got like artworks commissioned.
It's a really cool artwork, by the way. For anyone who's not seen it, it's a really nice artwork. I'm sure it'll look good on vinyl. There it is for everyone watching the video version. Yeah.
I was packing orders to get ahead of a couple of friends asked for a record to be set aside. I want to try and get those packaged tonight ahead of all the other stuff tomorrow. Because I'm sure I'm gonna, if I can break the post office chaos into 2 trips, it would probably be good.
Oh man, the fucking I think the post office have a love-hate relationship with us and TRIVAX for sure.
It's really fucking walking in with like 3 duffel bags full of shit.
Yeah. No, the woman kind of got mad at me and then said, you can't just come in here every time and fucking take up 2 hours on the till.
You can't come to the post office and post items, sir. It's like, I think I fucking can, actually. I think I can. Yeah. You're the post office. I'm going to post things here. It's like, where else do you want me to go? I'm not going to bring these in one at a time. Like,
the thing is, some of them actually get commission on it. So some of the local ones who are perhaps, I don't know how it works, maybe if they're renting it out, but the one I used to go to before I moved down to Cardiff, like they fucking knew me. Like they would see me from like a mile away, coming in with all the fucking vinyls and t-shirts. But
fucking guy.
Yeah, but they loved it because she said that they actually made something extra from it, and then I was there thinking, look at this fucking black metal fucking band feeding the locals. But the thing of it was that she got a bit mad at me because you're supposed to I think there's this membership thing that you can get that it's all paid for online, and then you just print the codes and then you just give it to them so they don't have to manually put it in.
I got politely informed of that the last time I took a bunch of records there, like when we did the vinyl of the EP that we did in 2020, like when we did the vinyl of that last year.
It's an excellent problem to have.
Yeah, it's like I even went to like the self-service thing because I knew I didn't want to fucking piss this woman off, and she came over from the desk. You could be serving someone while you're having a go at me. Like, go away. But yes, it's been a real long wait. But like you say, like I'm so happy with how the artwork came out. We got some great merch designs. Like we had Adrian Baxter that you had on the podcast a while ago.
Adrian, yes, good guy.
Designed for us. So we've got that on like long sleeves and short sleeves and a couple of different colors. And then we've got like the album art in like a full color print on the shirts as well.
Awesome. We wouldn't mind getting something done by him. He's a really good artist. I love his style.
Yeah, it's so cool. And it's like I literally just sent him like the MP3s of the album, a few particular lyrics, and I said I'd like it to be sort of loosely, sort of stylistically similar to the like the elements on the front cover, and then he came up with this really cool like symmetrical design.
Yeah. No, that sounds cool, man.
Um,
I think I got one of the. Yeah. Oh, so that's. Did he do that? Because I literally have
yeah,
a copy of that here.
yeah. You bought one, didn't you? At Leeds.
Yes, I paid for it with my own money.
Yes, much appreciated. um,
I was
but
almost
yeah,
given it for free, but I refused.
absolutely not. You wouldn't have given it for free by me. in
That's
this
it.
economy, in this economy, man.
That's it, man. Cost of fucking living can't be not paying for merch.
But yeah, it's exciting times. Like being able to start playing the new material live in the last year. Like it made the live shows so much more intense. Not only, like I'm vastly
Mm.
prefer the music on this release compared to the other stuff. Um, so for myriad reasons. Obviously I'm still proud of the earlier stuff, but like it's just a big step above what we've released previously. And obviously like the context of the album being written about initially about one death, then refined after a second, third, fourth, and then a month before we released the first single, there was another death in the family that was the youngest of the five. She was only 32.
Mm.
Um, that was like a pretty fucking stark reminder of like what the album was about because it had been a couple of years since anyone had died. Um,
So what is the album
um,
about?
it's so like the album title "To Bear the Weight of Death." Initially, when I was writing it, it was going to be BEAR, as in to like physically like carry the weight of death. Um, and I sort of started that after I was like a pallbearer for my grandfather who died in 2018. So it was like sort of physically
Mm.
carrying the weight of death, and then just like moving from a place of being like really resentful of people, like even though he was my grandfather, he was only like 70, and it was really sudden. Um, being really, really resentful, feeling like you're being robbed of time that you're owed with certain people, and
Yeah.
realizing you're not owed time with anyone, and that you just have to make the most of all the time that you do have with not only like your like family and friends, but like the time that you've got with yourself. And it totally flipped the way that I, like interacted with my family and myself, and just treating myself with a lot more self-respect, which was a big thing, and just being a lot more grateful for opportunities, not just like band related, but like any opportunities. Like it's a nice day outside. I'm going to go for a walk because I live in a nice place and appreciate that. I'm going to appreciate a nice meal that I've been able to cook for myself or like enjoy with a partner or friends. Like every single positive interaction is like you're not owed fucking anything. Like if you're going to sit in a room and be bitter all the time, like no one's going to want to do anything nice with you. Um, and then I sort of went through that process, and then like four more people died, and it's like part of it was like it's like you're just sort of getting over the grief of it, and then it'll happen again, and then you sort of go back a few steps, and then it'll happen again, and it's recurrent cycles that sort of like really drove the point home, that you have to be really appreciative of everything that you have.
Mm.
And the fact that the last one was only 32 is like getting closer and fucking closer. It's not like
Yeah.
death isn't reserved for the elderly, um, and it's like that was what, like 3 months ago. Obviously it's still like a sad thing, but it's like I'm not bitter about it. Like obviously I care, but I'm at a place now where it's like if people die, it's something that I can appreciate for what it is, and I view my own life in the sense that if I were to die tomorrow, it's like there's how busy I am. There's not a lot more I could be doing, man. Like I can't really be doing that much more than I am. And the vast majority of it is stuff that I properly love to do.
Yeah.
I'm able to like teach like younger people how to play guitar, which is really fulfilling. Like I mean, literally yesterday I was teaching a kid a song last minute that he's going to be recording to play at his nan's funeral that passed away over Christmas. So that's sort of
Wow.
been a weird time. Like
Mm.
the timing of that is quite bizarre. Um, And
it
this
is
is like an
interesting, isn't it,
11-year-old
when
kid.
stuff just kind of lines up like that? It's like
And
the
it's
universe is like almost like staring at you right in
yeah,
the
it's like
eyes.
I'm able to share it with people, because it's like I'm not naive enough to think that like a lot of deaths in the family, like it was probably more than average, in a 5-year period across like 3 generations of the family, like, but it's not like a unique, I'm not hard done by, it's like it's the only like thing that everyone has to go through, people dying, unless you literally don't know anyone, like you're gonna have to deal with a lot of people dying in
I
your life.
think the thing
And
that a lot
it's
of
like I just want
people,
to share.
yeah, I think the thing that a lot of people kind of maybe, if they might be listening to this and then thinking, oh, it's just family, this, it happens to everyone, but you got to think that and then some might be relating to this heavily. I know I'm relating to it in a big sense because I haven't even been with my family for years since I left. But the thing that I think makes it quite unique is, especially with family deaths, is people that you grew up knowing. So you've got memories of childhood and things like that attached to
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
So it almost feels like when they go, a part of you goes with them as well.
Yeah, I mean the first grandfather that died was the one who got me into Black Sabbath as a kid. Like I was 8 years old, and he showed me Fairies Wear Boots, and I was like, man, that is my life and career prospects fucking ruined. That is all I want to do forever.
Sure. Yeah,
And
yeah.
then like a
That's
couple months
nice.
after, like the local music store came in and like played Smoke on the Water on a guitar, and I was like, that's the thing that makes the noise that I heard. Um, I didn't really realize until a couple of years ago. It's like for whatever reason, it was the guitar thing. It's like wasn't interested in like the bass or the drums or the
Yeah.
singing. It's the thing that makes the noise that just resonated just straight away. And then it was like, man, I have to have guitar lessons. Like I have to make that happen. Um, and so yeah, like the first one was a big one, but in terms of like I could have just taken the death at like face value, grieved, but like I think it's like artists. I don't like using the word artist like self-describing too much, but I should get more comfortable.
Go ahead. Use it as
But
much as you like.
the I think like like as a creative person, like when you've got creative output, you have to like be introspective to find something to write about to a point. I think you can like just create and analyze it a bit afterwards, I guess, but I wanted to take a bit of time to like internally like properly process it, which is why it changed the relationship that I had with myself. Because like growing up, I just spent far too much time fucking miserable, taking everything far too seriously. Like, oh, everything's hard. It's like, yeah, it is. Like, do hard things on purpose, and like, it's not that bad. It's like you'll be a lot more satisfied with yourself
You're
if
still a
you
little bit
you're
like
able
that
to
now
look at.
sometimes.
Oh yeah, but it's black metal, man. No, but tell you what, I
Yeah.
listen to a lot more Motley Crue and Kiss these days, and I have a good time most of the time. Um, you know, if I was
Yeah,
super
that's
cheerful
it.
all the time, it maybe I don't know. I think I've just got a fucking hardwired setting in me to be a little bit negative sometimes more than I probably should be. But
Mm.
but like I'm self-aware of it. I try and mitigate it most of the time. And like if I'm having a bad day, it's like, man, just listen to Looks That Kill and have a good time, and it'll be a
Yeah.
better. And I go to the gym and eat better and sleep better. It's like, oh wow, I don't feel like shit all the time. Wow. So
Listen, man, the
it's simple
difference that
things.
makes, and like you said, yeah, life is hard, tough shit, do hard
Yeah.
things, and then
Yeah.
it doesn't feel hard. It's so many people miss the mark on that. So many people listen to motivational quotes and everything and think that, oh yeah, I'm doing good, and then they're never actually doing anything about it. It's just a false perception of just their own laziness, and we are all included in that, by the way. No one is exempt from that
Yeah.
mindset.
Everyone's got a bad
Even,
day.
yeah, exactly. Even the hardest of people, but at the end of the day, I don't think life is something that I was recently speaking to BBC reporter, and we were kind of having a personal conversation off the cameras and mics and stuff. And I was saying to her, I said that you're not supposed to be exactly like happy. Like what does that
Yeah.
even mean?
Yeah.
Like there's this idea that, oh, you constantly have access to stuff that you want to consume, or is it that you've got, I don't know, like what does that actually
Yeah,
mean?
the
Is like, oh yeah, the concept of happiness, and I said that life is inherently meant to be difficult, but then those difficulties are also the thing that feed into more life, and that's really the thing
I
that we
think
want to get.
the thing to strive for is really being fulfilled rather than being happy, because it's like,
Hmm.
a happy,
Exactly.
an instantaneous thing. Like, if you're in just like a good mood and then you get some bad news or whatever, it can ruin your day, ruin your week. But like, if your entire life is built around doing things that really fulfill you, like, making music you're not compromising on, or if you're a visual artist, like painting things for yourself and not just settling into a soul destroying corporate graphic design job where you're making fucking labels for tinned rice, or what, as long as you're doing like the thing that I think I've like, I don't know, mate, I'd hope that most people know what they should be doing. Like for me, like from the age of 8 years old, after I heard Black Sabbath, I know what I should be doing. I'd hope other people at least find a sense of that at some point in their lives.
Hmm.
As long as you're doing that, even though you're going to have good days and bad days, mood wise, if you can go to bed and think, well, it's like, at least I'm doing the thing that I should be. It's a lot more bulletproof than instantaneous, especially like just entertainment. Like you're saying, like people just want to be entertained with just,
Yeah.
and all the time. It's like, sit in a quiet room for half an hour and like just see how you're actually doing. And because I bet in half an hour you could find a lot of problems in your life that you can fix in 10 minutes. Like a lot of problems. It's like,
Right.
it's, whereas if you're just having shit just shoveled at you constantly, especially in an age where it's like things will just autoplay and you'll just be served stuff without even having to look for it anymore. It's like,
Yeah,
man, like,
absolutely. One of my favorite recent things to do is to just go for, I mean, this is something, actually, it's not recent at all. I've done this for years, but one thing that's really good to clear your head, I don't recommend this to women at all, but for me, I love going for walks in the woods in the dark,
oh yeah,
with no phone torch or no headphones or nothing, and it's such a fantastic stabilizer because you kind of just stop thinking about here and there, future, past, whatever. You're just present because even though I feel calm in the situation, it sort of triggers this part of your evolutionary mind and DNA, yeah, that just brings you to the present, and then you're not allowed to think about anything else other than where you are now. It's like, just in case, oh, there's a predator, even though you are undoubtedly the biggest and most dangerous predator in there. Especially if you're in the UK, you're nothing's gonna happen to you. But it's that's what makes it interesting, And everyone always thinks, oh, what if there's something else in the dark that's dangerous? But then you think, no, I am the thing that's in the dark that's dangerous, and I choose not to be dangerous. I choose to simply find peace within that somehow, and it's insane what it does for you mentally.
I only started doing the walks without music thing fairly recently, because like I grew up in North Wales, like half an hour away from Snowdonia, and like you can see the ocean from like my living room. So I
Mm.
spend a lot of time at the sea, where some of the shots for the single were taken as well, and a lot of time in Snowdonia. But a lot of the time was like, with music on, which was really cool. Like I remember like looking out over, like from the peak of Snowdon with some headphones on, listening to Stairway to Heaven, and like the guitar solo hit, and it was like, that's really, like it nearly moved me to tears. Like
It's
it
good
was like,
shit. Yeah, 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 yeah. I feel that.
having those experiences with music is always really great. And
Mm.
it helps you enjoy the music even more afterwards, the more like memories you accumulate with it. But doing it without music it's a totally different thing. It's like I've actually tried to like listen to a little bit less music throughout the day, so I sort of appreciate it more when I do listen to it. Um, it's been really interesting, because it totally changes your mood. Um, like
Sure.
waking up and not just instantly fucking putting like some ridiculously heavy shit on. Um, it's a bit harder to get like the energy levels up, or like trying to go to bed at night without listening to like relaxing stuff before. Yeah, it just sort of forces you to like control your own mind a little bit more. But yeah, it's difficult like when you derive a lot of value from music. So yeah, it's like I've almost tried to like wean myself off it a little bit.
That's it. Yeah.
It's
That's
interesting.
yeah. Well, listen, man. Hopefully, people will be having that same experience with your music,
Well,
which
yeah,
you're just
hopefully.
about to put out. Yeah, and yeah, excited to see where it takes you guys, see how it performs, and yeah, see where it goes for Andracca. It's only been uphill since we've known it, so it's cool to see. I mean, just to kind of wrap things up, what have you guys got planned? What should people keep an eye out for? If there's any gigs, if there's anything anywhere they can check out the album.
Yeah, so from by the time that this comes out, the album will be out on all like streaming services. There's a premiere on Black Metal Promotion tomorrow afternoon, so that'll be cool. It'll be available like on physical copies from our Bandcamp as well as the Vendetta store, and it's being like shipped around distros as well at the moment. So it should be available in most places. I know that Black City Records in Bristol are getting a few, and that's a great store for people that live in
Great
like
store. Yep. They've
UK.
got some TRIVAX stuff. I know that.
Yeah,
So definitely check them out.
But yeah, gig wise, we're doing the album launch show in Manchester on the 17th as part of that all day that Reaper are putting on. Loads of fucking great bands playing albums, like some of them months before they're going to be released, like Abduction, Devastator. The Ninkosag EP is being played in full for the first time. And you know, that's a great show. And the fact that it's all UK bands that seem to have like just picked up a fucking lot in the last like, 4 or 5 years is cool to see. Like, packing
Those
out
are, if I'm
with
not
so many
mistaken,
UK
those are
bands.
all Reaper bands, right?
I don't think the Infernal Sea, and
All right. Yeah.
I
That's
don't
right.
think the Sun's Journey Through the Night are, and I don't think the opening band are.
Okay.
But
Still
I
a
think
great
the
UK
majority.
lineup. It
Yeah,
kind of shows a lot of what's going
yeah.
on. It's a good roster,
It's
nevertheless.
like the bar's been raised a lot in the UK in the last 3 years. I think a lot of people spent like a lot of people in the UK spent COVID writing a lot of really good shit, and
Mm.
obviously came out of COVID pretty fucking eager to play shows again.
Mm.
So that's our first show of the year. Um, we've got a few festivals lined up. I don't think I can say publicly at the moment which ones.
You
And
finally
there are
heading outside the UK yet?
very loose plans. It's something that we're sort of starting to shoot for now, especially since Vendetta is a German label. We're building like more connections over there. So we're going to launch the album and then build up, a bit of a momentum from that, and then start sort of pushing in that direction. I think
Cool.
because we've played everywhere in the UK last year, from Glasgow to Brighton, so we want to start crossing over that way. But yeah, at the moment, like the touring plans are like pretty much UK based with tentative stuff, maybe looking at towards Europe's direction or something.
Cool, man. Well, awesome to hear that. Obviously, a lot of the listeners of the podcast are from all over the place. So who knows if someone's
Yeah,
listening
yeah.
to this who can get the Andracca boys around and get them on the road, then get in touch, I guess. And yeah, you can be a part of the building of a legacy of a great band on the second album, right?
Cool. But yeah, that one German show we did has spoiled me, man. The hospitality.
You're welcome.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't wait to go back, but we are in the same boat now, which is, as you might have noticed, we're not doing so many UK shows, but also the fact that we have played it to death. But actually, just to contradict exactly what I said, we do have plans, which I'll tell you off the screen. I think
Cool.
you'll be happy to hear who we're playing
Stuff.
with. But yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, man. Listen, it's been a pleasure to have you on. It's really nice to chat, and I love your life asserting values and the direction that you're taking, and really treating this genre as the catharsis that it is, rather than, you know, um, you know, just I hate
Not
to
just
use the
risks.
word. Yeah, exactly. You know, and that's good. Keep it up, and I'm excited to see how things go down for you guys, and to everyone else listening to the podcast as well. First off, thank you for joining us and making it to this part of the conversation. I hope that you have enjoyed mine and Kieran's chat, and be sure to support their newest record as soon as you can. It's a really cool album with a great vibe, and yeah. We'll see you guys on the next episode of Iblis Manifestations. Bye bye.